starting to come in.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the New York Space Business Roundtable. We are excited to have you here. We will be kicking off our program in just a moment, but I wanted to do a very quick little bit of announcement, starting with the fact that at the present moment, you are all muted and you will need to be on mute for the remainder of the program up until the 1 o'clock mark. So if you have any questions or thoughts or anything that you want to communicate, you are welcome to use the chat button, which the chats are open to everyone. At 1 o'clock, we always do the big question, and it's a bunch of fun, and it is an opportunity for the audience to participate. So I invite you at that time to unmute and ask questions as you wish, but until that mark, you will be on mute. Please do take advantage of the chat. And with that, I am going to turn the floor over to our host, Mr. Lou Zaccarello.
Well, thank you, Tamara, and welcome everybody to the final New York Space Business Roundtable of the year. We are at the holidays here, and so I wanted to wish everybody a very happy holiday. And as we know, the people in churches and temples and mosques and at their homes across the globe will hear a couple of words from the great prophet Isaiah in a few days, which is, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. And I can't think of anything but space and its vast quiet and its wonders and its marvels when I hear that this time of year. So we are joyful, and we are going to provide some light for you here at the roundtable today. So again, welcome and happy holidays. Before we get into it, I wanted to thank again our sponsors and our supporting organizations. There they are. They've been with us throughout the year. The Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, their Trade and Investment Office in New York. We thank them so much for their support, as well as Kratos, World Teleport Association, New Space New York, Rice University's Space Institute, and the Washington Space Business Roundtable, as well as our friends at World Teleport Association. We thank them all for their support in making this happen. And I want to give a special shout out to someone you'll hear from later, representing Space News magazine. They have been our media sponsor and have been a very important anchor in this event. So we appreciate your support. We look forward to your support again next year, and we couldn't do it without you. So your Christmas presents are on the way. You know, this has been a big month for us in the industry. And, you know, the word Artemis is just ringing everywhere, like Christmas bells throughout our universe. And I thought what we would do today is honor that project and the people involved. We're just fortunate to have one of them here with us today and show you our video, as we do, as is our custom, to launch the roundtable. And so with that, I'm going to, Matt, ask you to run the videotape.
"50 years after we last left footprints on the moon, NASA's Artemis 1 is our first bold step towards getting us back there and pushing us farther than we've ever been before." You are looking at the world's most powerful rocket and Orion spacecraft live on Launch Pad 39B. The energy here is palpable as we attempt to make history today.
We're going to learn so much about the solar system from the moon, and even about the Earth.
Range weather. Weather is go for launch.
The mission management team has been pulled. You have a go to proceed with terminal count.
On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together to make this day possible, at this time I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
SLS now traveling 607 miles per hour.
The harder the climb, the better the view. We showed the Space Coast tonight. What a beautiful view it is. The first step in returning our country to the moon and on to Mars.
We are understanding now from the James Webb Space Telescope just how big and vast this universe is. There's a lot out there to explore. And this is the next beginning.
Orion is now flying free, attached to the European Service Module and on its journey to the moon.
Wow, a great light indeed. I love Charlie's enthusiasm there. Our topic today is building and cruising the Cislunar Highway. We'll be talking about the role of both NASA and the private sector as we continue to go forward with this great adventure. I also will ask you in the audience, as well as our panelists, the big question, which we always ask at the end of the roundtable: what will the Cislunar Highway look like on Christmas Eve in 2032, 10 years from now? So as you are listening to our guests today, maybe you'll have an answer or a thought about that question as well. And I wanted to thank Ori Yates here at the SSPI for designing that for us. She included my apartment building there on the moon, and I'm looking forward to having that condominium someday, maybe 10 years from now. Okay, we are now at the point where we bring in our friends at Space News for the Significant Digits Report. Today we have Deborah Warner with us, the Silicon Valley reporter for Space News. And Deborah, first of all, welcome again to the roundtable.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, it's great to see you. And you know the topic today. We're talking obviously about public-private developments in the wake of Artemis and the Cislunar Highway, and also data processing in space, things like that. Now, you've been doing a little bit of reporting on that and writing about it and thinking about it. Would you mind just sharing with us where you think things are with regard to these items?
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion because we're heading into a very exciting time for government and commercial lunar missions. We thought they would start this year, but I think next year, 2023 and 2024, it looks like there will be a lot going on from various nations and private companies delivering cargo for NASA, payloads for NASA and for the private sector. So I can't wait to see how that shapes up. And in terms of data processing and storage, that's another topic I keep talking to people about because it seems like there's going to be data processing and storage in low Earth orbit and data processing and storage on the moon. We are far beyond the time where we could be satisfied with a 2-megapixel camera far away. We want to see everything. We want to crunch data. We want to store data. So I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Well, so are we. And Deborah, is there anything, because I know that you're working on a story right now, is there anything that in your mind will be sort of the development over the next 10 years, just to give you the sneak preview question, the big question, 2032, is there anything in these areas that you've talked about that you think you'll be reporting on in 10 years?
I think I think this whole data piece will be important for all of it. Because if you're looking for water, if you're learning to live somewhere, we rely on our devices a lot now. And we are used to having access to data processing. So I want to understand how that develops. People seem to be moving away from radiation hardened computing modules or components toward shielding commercial or industrial parts. So can't wait to see how it develops. And I can't wait to see how the search for water and what we can do with it turns out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And just finally, I can't let you go without asking you in terms of what you're going to be working on and what we can expect to read from you over the next couple of weeks or months in Space News.
Oh, we just started talking about a whole AI issue. It's easy to talk about all the great things AI could do, but also where it falls short, what it can't do or what it can't do yet. I want to understand that.
Okay, so that's an area of focus for you. All right, well, listen, we enjoy reading you. We enjoy seeing you more, and I wish you a great holiday.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thanks, Deborah. And again, many thanks to Space News for making their journalists available to us this year. Okay, this is usually the time when I turn things over to my colleague at the New York Space Alliance, Joe Fargnoli. Unfortunately, Joe is managing an elderly parental issue today, and he couldn't be with us. So, Joe, we're thinking about you, and we wish you were here, but we know you've got more important things to do right now. So I will take over the introduction of our guests and start some of the questioning. We're absolutely delighted to have the two guests that we have today. I'll start first with Jim Free from NASA, who's made himself available to us. Jim, as probably all of you know, is the Associate Administrator for the Exploration Development Systems Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. He's responsible for the development of NASA's lunar and Mars architectures, defining and managing the systems development for NASA's Artemis program, and planning for NASA's Moon to Mars exploration integrated approach. These activities include the human exploration system development for lunar orbital, lunar surface, and Mars exploration, leading the human aspects of the Artemis activities and the integration of science into the human systems elements. Programs under his domain include Orion Space Launch System, Exploration Ground Systems, Gateway Human Landing System, and extravehicular activity and human surface mobility. I don't know when Jim gets time to sleep, but I'm going to ask him actually. Jim is a recipient of the Presidential Rank Award, NASA's Distinguished Service Medal, NASA's Outstanding Leadership Medal, NASA's Exceptional Service Medal, Significant Achievement Medal, and numerous other awards. And Jim, welcome to the New York Space Business Roundtable.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Chris Stott is a familiar face to most of us as well. Chris is the founder, chair, and CEO of Lonestar Data Holdings, the lunar information technology and communications company. And that may be a first for hearing from some of you. Chris is also the founder and non-executive chair of Mansat, the world's largest commercial provider of satellite spectrum. You probably all know him in that role at Mansat. Chris also serves, I'm proud to say, as chair emeritus alongside the late Sir Arthur C. Clarke of Space and Satellite Professionals International, SSPI, the largest association in the global space and satellite industry. And he was named the Industry's Mentor of the Year in 2015. His passion for economics and commerce of space has led him to co-found both the Institute of Space Commerce in the US and the International Institute of Space Commerce on the Isle of Man in the British Isles, his ancestral home. He has served on faculty at the International Space University and is a former co-chair of the University School of Business and Management. Chris is also a guest lecturer in space law and regulation at MIT's Media Labs, the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, and the School of Law down at the University of Houston. in his spare time. Well, he has no spare time. Chris, welcome to the Roundtable.
No, thank you, Lou, very much, everyone, for having me. And sorry about that resume. Jim, pleasure to be here with you. Deborah, thank you for everything Space News does for the industry. And a sincere thanks to all of the sponsors who make this happen today.
Thanks, Chris. And I should also add, Chris is a dear friend and a mentor of mine as well. So I'm always happy when he says yes to be here. He also produces films, by the way. He's an award-winning producer of films. I have to say that. Okay, let's jump right in here. Jim, you had a few things going on this month. How do you feel right now? Are you emotionally here, or someplace else?
Yeah, I think it's been a strange. I still feel like I've lost track of days, and it's still a bit surreal that the mission went so well and we splashed down, and the vehicle's on its way back to Kennedy right now. So I think I'm somewhere in between, feeling like what a relief to okay, what's next?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I have to ask you, and I asked this question of Chris as well. How do you organize your time? I mean, you have so many roles to play, and there are a lot of young people out there, young executives as well, and they're looking and listening to you, and they're saying, "Gosh, how can you get that done? I can't even get through my grocery list." Is there some, before we go to your presentation, is there some secret to organization from guys like you and Chris that we need to know about?
I'll let Chris answer first.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Through to you, Chris.
Yeah. See, that's good leadership. It's delegation. That's what I was going to say. Actually, it's Jim, you and the team, what you've achieved, and thank you for bringing us back. It's been 50 years, and oh my gosh, I think all of us have been counting the days. And thank you sincerely for taking us back where we always all wanted to go in the first place. So thank you tremendously. And Lou, what the golden trick is surround yourself with people way more intelligent, way more capable, give them clear goals and milestones, get them resources, and delegate. And then I get to go sit there in my gym jams and watch Netflix at 9 o'clock at night with my laptop.
Yeah, sure you do. Okay, Jim, you generally agree?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's all about the team from my perspective. We have a tremendous team both here at NASA and in our industry partners, and certainly in our international partners as well. It is, I think I probably could always organize better, and you assume I get through my grocery list, but I think it's really about prioritizing and trusting the folks that work for you, and I certainly have that pleasure on my end.
Yeah, getting the good people around you is absolutely the key, and you certainly do. And they've worked with us to organize a presentation for you, and we'd like to go to that now. And if you could just take us through that, Jim, and then we'll start our roundtable discussion.
That'd be great. Thanks, Lou. Yeah, there's a few folks that make me sound smarter than I am, so I appreciate their help. They're sitting over here right now. So yeah, good afternoon. It really is great to be here with you today and talk about the Artemis campaign. It's that video is so awesome to see for me, because it's our first step as we build a long-term presence at the moon, where we want partners, we want industry and international partners to join us. So over the years, we've done a lot of exploration studies. Each political administration has given us different goals. Sometimes I always joke we were allowed to talk about the moon but not Mars, talk about Mars but not the moon. Times we were not allowed to talk about either. And those solutions we came up with were developed and then repackaged to fit the changing goals that we had. And as a result, we had solutions that didn't really optimally match what changed during administrations, and really challenged us to achieve it until what we've gone through here recently. And our deputy administrator, Pam Melroy, really under her leadership, we've defined a broad and overarching set of goals that help us all understand why we're going, along with principles that will influence vision on resiliency and to political, financial, and technical influences that we've had before. And those goals are set up to help us create a blueprint for sustained exploration throughout the solar system, with the key word there being sustained. Our goals are really stable enough that the fluctuations in funding and different geopolitical influences or other external pressures won't detract from our continued progress of achieving them. And we aim to really cover the practical as well as the aspirational. And as part of the process for developing the blueprint, did you go to the next slide? Thanks. As the process for developing the blueprint for that sustained human presence and exploration throughout the solar system that I mentioned, we've drafted really a set of high-level objectives organized into the 4 categories that you see here. And those objectives are really intended to act as our guideposts, helping us to define what we want to do over the next 20 years to make sure that we have an integrated focus and move us towards our first analog Mars mission with crew in space. And that will then prepare us for the first human mission to the surface of the red planet. We'll use our objectives to inform our architecture. As we define the architecture, we'll identify the different elements needed to achieve the objectives and organize the delivery of the elements into different missions. And those elements will enable various mission scenarios that help us achieve a given set of scientific and exploration system goals and objectives. The architecture has to be evolutionary as the world changes around us. We plan to define the baseline first in January and February of 23. And each year we'll continue to evolve that with our budget cycles as our financial profile comes into a better focus. The architecture has to feed our budget process, helping us to know what to ask for and when, so that our planning is well defined and explained. The architecture definition process identifies gaps in capabilities, so we know when we need to add new elements or potentially when we need to know when to collaborate with others, which is absolutely critical because these gaps will lead to new procurements and partnerships where industry and other space agencies around the world can get involved. It guides us on augmenting our existing programs and establishing new ones within our agency constraints, right? We can't go with a $50 billion budget. We have constraints we have to live within. And after each one of these architecture reviews, we'll perform that gap analysis to feed the next revision. And for instance, this first architecture baseline was going to help us solidify our plans for Artemis 6 through 10, taking us into the next decade. We have a good plan for 1 through 5 already. This is 6 through 10. Go to the next one, please. So we're always looking for collaboration. It's what we do. It's our Artemis 1 was an international collaboration, had commercial collaboration on it as well. We have to find those opportunities to integrate with those international partners, with our industrial partners. Where can they best thrive with the plans that they have and objectives that they have, much like we do? Where can they get involved? And you kind of see the range of areas where we see the need for collaboration, where we see our objectives intersect, and we're hoping that others see the intersections as well. We'll develop elements that I talked about earlier to serve our purposes to meet those objectives, but we may get those elements in different ways. We might buy services, we might sponsor activities or partner with other entities. And you can see from the list here, right, there's a lot of categories, let alone what falls in under each one of them. And the opportunities to collaborate that we've already taken advantage of, signing study agreements with international partners to explore areas here further. And we're still and always will be looking for other partnerships. Part of that is the technology development. And when we look at the partnerships today, we look at where the expertise is in those particular areas and the maturity of technology, most importantly, to evaluate the risk and then determine how do we do that partnership via certain contract agreements or otherwise. And likewise, there's technology that we're developing today that we need to advance for it to be in place in 15 or 20 years. We have to prove those things out now so we have a realistic development timeframe that help us achieve our exploration goals. Our end game is really that robust lunar ecosystem where anyone anyone can thrive. Certainly we have our objectives to thrive there, but much like is being done in low Earth orbit today, we hope that same model carries forward. But at the same time, we'll be conducting our scientific investigations that'll help us learn more about the moon and test our systems to go on to Mars. So I do thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm looking forward to the discussion we're going to have and hear from all of you on thoughts on the plans that we're laying out and how you can get involved further with our lunar efforts. As you can see, we have a lot of exciting activities kicking off first with Artemis 1, and we look forward to everyone having a chance to play in that.
Right. Jim, thanks so much. I don't use the word much, but it's pretty awesome what's going on. I have to ask you the question, the evolutionary architecture process. Again, I think to the mind, it says, NASA, the great innovator, is going to kind of build the spaceship as they fly it a little bit because you have to. Do I kind of have that right? I mean, this is kind of a new venture, right? Nothing can sort of be canned despite the planning, right? And where are those areas, I guess, that you would say the evolution will probably come?
Yeah, we use the word evolutionary because technology development happens at a pretty rapid pace in addition to the way we can buy things. So if we want to say, when we go to our first human mission to Mars is going to use technology X to get there, there may be other things that develop that might help us get there faster or keep the crew safer when we go. So we're trying to say, not rule out adding other technologies in as time goes by. I always liken it to a sideways funnel, right? As we get closer, we need to narrow down, number one, so we can build it. Number one, we can predict when we're gonna need it, but we want to keep it open as long as we can, as other folks may bring technologies online that we can take advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. So it requires a significant degree of flexibility. But just two more questions, and I'm going to go to Chris. Were there technologies that evolved for Artemis 1 that you weren't even thinking about at the outset? Some problem that had to get solved, and all of a sudden, hey, we've got a technology that would have made the Apollo guys really proud.
Yeah, I don't know that there was a technology. I'd say there was a partnership that evolved, and the European service module, for instance, when the Orion came about, it was a U.S. produced service module, and one of the ways that we were able to augment and get broader buy-in for the Orion mission was to bring in the Europeans and take their ATV, their automated transfer vehicle that was used for ISS, and bring that into our work. And so we evolved it through a partnership as opposed to technology. And now the Europeans are in the critical path for every mission we have.
Very good. So the idea of collaboration obviously becomes more and more critical. A final question I was getting all week was the sustainability, so to speak, the political sustainability. There are going to be shifts in political thinking and budgeting and all of the things that go along with the science and art of politics. What plans might shift if there's an administration change and versus the things that you believe are bipartisan and will sustain throughout the course of this mission?
Yeah, what I'd say is that kind of goes back to that first chart that I showed about the why, where we tie it to things that should transcend administrations, about national posture and inspiration. We're trying to make ourselves that resiliency, that political, technical, and financial resiliency. That's our way to go across administrations, is to appeal to that. Now, if an administration comes in and says, hey, we don't want to do any space exploration, it's hard to argue with that. But what we're trying to do is root it in the why and have a set of objectives that are broadly bought into. We brought in industry and international to develop those objectives, so that it's not just about the favorite pet of what NASA wants to do. It's tied to who we are as a country. It's tied to what we represent. and how we plan. A clear explanation of how we're going to do it also is important. It's not just about, hey, we want to do great things. We have to be able to back up what we're going to do, and we have to perform. And that means we have to run our programs properly and deliver on time.
Yeah, more sustaining cultural values are going to reinforce this endeavor. Yeah, I'm struck by the degree to which people have bought into this, probably even more so than in the old days when people were questioning every expenditure. Perhaps it's the commercial element of it. People understand that this is good for humanity and it's good for the economy, and it's actually going to revive economies around the country as they begin to build for space. And you'll be producing companies like Lonestar, Chris, a commercial company. Like Jim, you're going to the moon as well. Take us through the Lonestar concept, which is very exciting.
No, well, thank you, Lou. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. And Jim, thank you again for what you're doing with Artemis, because we couldn't do what we're doing as a commercial company without Artemis, and especially without CLPS, the Commercial Lunar Payload Services, where NASA has created an incredible marketplace for access to Earth's largest satellite, the moon. It's tremendous. And what we're doing at Lonestar is we're using Earth's largest satellite, working with existing customers to meet a terrestrial market where we're actually looking at disaster recovery as a service and edge processing from the moon. And the moon is a fantastic platform for this. But we couldn't do what we're doing without CLPS or without Artemis or without this tremendous return to the moon, opening up this possibility to leverage the technologies and leverage the sunk investment by our great nation and our international partners in doing this. And Lou, I love the last comment with Jim, and Jim, thank you, because that was, space is the most bipartisan issue we still have left. And there's always that great secret, that open secret about space. And that's 100% of the money spent in space isn't. It's spent right down here on Earth. And it truly benefits all of our economies. And I think people are finally, like you said, starting to see that. And certainly from the Better Satellite World Awards, that's become apparent for the satellite community as well. It's, well, I was going to say, it's easy to see that it's easy to see what's going on down here on Earth. Sometimes hard to see the satellite that powers the global economy. But this satellite, you can see. The moon is a very visible example of the great benefits that space brings to all of us.
Yeah, and Chris, as you and your colleagues think through the investments that you continue to make and the plans that you have next year to launch, I believe. Two questions. How does Artemis and the success that Jim has had there fit into your plans and maybe even your own confidence level when you see it? Do you say, okay, this gives us a little bit more of a runway? Is there that factored in, or does it not matter in this case?
Oh no, it matters tremendously. Thank you. And the move that the federal government is taking to put infrastructure into cislunar space, growing it out from LEO and GEO and upwards, is tremendous. It mirrors what has happened historically. The great westward expansion in the United States was fueled, people think, by a great mix of entrepreneurs, but it was a mix of entrepreneurs and the federal government with land grants and more. And to see the federal government mirror that today is tremendous. To see them to do it at a point in sort of human history where we all realize just how incredibly valuable space is. And you've got, I would say, two teams internationally heading out to do this. One we colloquially call Team Freedom, and that is the United States and its allies and the Artemis Accords, and a tremendous group of international partners and democracies doing this. And you've got Team Tyranny, China and Russia. So I don't know, pick a side. But as we go out and do this, to see that the federal government putting that infrastructure in place is key. We would not have been able to raise, we're VC funded at Lonestar, incredible group of funders, from Scout Ventures to Celdor to Iron Gate Global, Atypical Ventures, the Veteran Fund, and to Future Holdings, and visionary people. I mean, come on, when you go to them and say, I want to put data centers on the moon, and the business case closes with great customers, they have to be visionary to back something like this, because it does sound like we're lunatics, every pun intended.
Lunatics, yes, that's okay. That was one of the questions I was being asked to ask, Chris. Talk to me about the advantages of doing something so remotely. How could they possibly outweigh the risks of picking some remote spot on Earth or even at Leo to do this?
Oh,
work?
absolutely. No, of course, these are the same questions we went through as well.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is demand driven. So this is demand pull versus technology push. So we rest on the shoulders of people like Jim and the team and Artemis and Clips. And we're working with Intuitive Machines out of Houston, Texas, and a great Clips provider. They're all great. Astrobotic, Firefly, Draper, all of them are fantastic. But the team at Intuitive have been tremendous to work with. They were visionary enough to accept us as a customer. They've been really good at pushing the commercial side of space. Because when you look at something like this, the customers came to us and said, we need help, we have an issue, we need somewhere safe outside the biosphere to store our data. So we looked at everything. We looked under the water, we looked in deserts, jungles, tops of mountains, underneath mountains. And we looked at LEO and we looked at GEO. And every time we would look at these different environments, the same answer kept coming back to us. When we're taking a leaf out of the satellite industry. I mean, please never forget the first ever commercial satellite, ComSat, Telstar 1, was flown in 1962. It's even before, I think, the formation of Intelsat. But, you know, who's counting in history books? Apparently we are. Now, so the same idea that this push into space through exploration also fuels a growing economy, and it allows people to serve terrestrial markets through space assets. And that's all we're doing. Everyone else is going to explore the moon and absolutely 100% go do it. Amazing. And as we're there, we just happen to be there looking back at Earth for our terrestrial customers going, what a great place to be. 400,000 kilometers away, incredibly stable, no climate change, access to renewable energy. I'm kind of ticking things off. You can't see it because my hands are down here. But it's a wonderful platform, Earth's largest satellite that doesn't need maneuvering fuel. Right. You can actually build out amazing equipment up there. And I see that NASA's pushing ahead with 3D printing with Icon and Big, Bjarke Ingels and Martin Volke and the team over there, incredible architects. The ability to see private industry step up and support our national goals as a republic to go forward and secure access to energy and resources for space that just drives all of humanity forwards. It is incredible. And it's amazing to see. And it's an absolute engine going forward.
Right. And, you know, obviously this is the New York Space Business Roundtable. And I just want to reinforce what you said. You're not looking at it as some very well, everything's a risk in business, but you're not looking at it as you say, some pie in the sky feel good investment, because you're not a billionaire so far as I know. And if you are, you know, we'll have lunch. Yeah, we'll have lunch Friday again.
Big check for the SSPI. Yeah.
But you are looking at this as a business proposition and saying there are so many assets to doing business this way in this place that we are now confident. Artemis has given us more confidence. So you're looking at it with a very cold-eyed business perspective. I mean,
we have to.
That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, we're VC funded. VCs do not invest in companies that doesn't close.
That's right.
And that's why we look at the moon as a fantastic satellite to do business from. And then every time Artemis hits a milestone, every time Clips hits a milestone, everything works great, and it's tremendous for us because it then vindicates and validates everything that we've been talking to, not just our investors, but also our customers as well.
Yeah.
And so we see Earth as part of the moon's economic sphere, very much part of the larger global economy. And in a software-defined future, as Deborah was saying earlier, the ability to do edge processing on the moon is tremendous.
Right.
And I think, well, I can ask questions. I can go on for hours. You know, sound of my own voice, that's very melodic to me. I'll keep boring as long as people let me
Well, it's melodic to me too. Jim's been taking in a lot of this, I noticed, and he's actually been making some notes there. Or he's writing Christmas cards. I can't tell which, but hey, Jim, you obviously have a sense of what the cislunar economy is. I mean, Chris just described how Lonestar will be a part of it. Is it a vision that you can share with us? And is NASA going to get into the business of maybe predicting winners or not as we move forward or go down that highway?
Yeah, I was taking notes there, Chris. The great sayings there, and things I hadn't really even thought of. To some of the things you said, I love the vindicates and validates. I got to be honest with you, there's a lot of feeling of that around here right now after Artemis 1. I think where we're trying to get to is to enable that growth of that cislunar economy. I talked about it a little bit in my remarks, but just to give you some ways we're trying to do that, our lunar terrain vehicle, which is the unpressurized rover for the crew that we need to really do the science that we are being asked to do, is we're going out with that as a services contract. Our draft RFP is out right now. Now, as far as I know, no one is out there saying, hey, we want to do lunar rover services on the moon and sell them to a bunch of folks. There's been companies talking about that. So we're trying to push the limits to enable some of the things. I talked about the connection to LEO, and Chris mentioned our commercial lunar payload services, where we're trying to push the economy there. We need that. We can't afford to do everything on the moon by ourselves. That's why we're looking for partnerships with international. That's why we're trying to enable commercial. We want to use the services that could be available. Our deputy administrator has talked a lot about infrastructure. Infrastructure is incredibly important to our goals on the moon. We need landing pads, we need power, we need communications. And as we can push some of our services like LTV that might encourage folks to put things down on the surface, that's important. Chris mentioned intuitive machines that have plans to do communications. So we're trying to push and enable that things that serve us to do our objectives, but also that help people achieve some of their goals as well for lunar exploration.
I want to start getting into the public-private partnership aspect of this, Jim, and you really teed it up for us. Before I do that, though, Tamara, are there any questions out there that I see a lot of chat? Anything we need to have answered before we go back to?
Yeah, let me just pull forward a question Aaron Zuckerman put forward in the chats. He says, conversely, to Lou's question earlier to Jim, have there been technologies that have been overtaken and replaced by commercial solutions? And to that, I actually added, and what is NASA's flexibility in leveraging some such technological solutions?
That's a really good question. I think the analogy I would give right now is, I don't know that it's a technology. It might be more along the lines of how we're buying things. We obviously, NASA put in place commercial cargo, commercial crew years ago. When we decided that we needed logistics services to our Gateway. So Gateway is our lunar orbiting space station. We put out a call for that, and SpaceX won the first award on that. So I'd say that, we might have had to develop a whole new tug and cargo system to take things up there, but and which would have been new technology, maybe using electric propulsion to be very efficient. But we're able to go to a commercial solution built by SpaceX off of something that we enabled some years ago. So that's probably the best answer I could give there.
Good. Chris, anything you want to add to that? Is there anything?
No, thank you. Great answer from Jim. I mean, it's
Yeah,
there was a great paper at the Institute of Space Commerce. Got a plug in change.space is our equation. Larry Niven and Jerry Pornell are patrons there. About this public provision or private provision of public science, which is really just a reflection of what NASA is so good at doing. And I think that's something that NASA never gets enough credit for.
Yes.
Right? Because it's as NASA goes forward and does everything from Mercury, Gemini, all the way up to today in Artemis, it's in partnership. NASA comes up with the specifications. NASA comes up with the driving mission, and then industry is there to support NASA in doing this. And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And I think what you've seen, say, in the last 10, 15 years, and again, amazing example there, thank you, Jim, with SpaceX and COTS and commercial crew and more, because all of a sudden you then get private investment able to come and support our space program in a different way than it did in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. You get this entrepreneurial input and you get this venture capital input. And it's wonderful to see, because we're all in this together. I mean, that's something that sometimes I think sometimes we lose track of, is that, this is us. This is, we're at this, 8 billion of us living on this planet right now. We need these resources and energy. And it's amazing that and wonderful that America has taken this lead through NASA.
Yeah.
And that NASA is there to work with industry and harness that energy, harness that financial support to push the mission even further.
Right.
And that's just tremendous. So it's not just taxpayers' money, it's taxpayers plus this incredible catalyst and multiplier of private capital coming in to really push science and the mission and exploration and access to resources and energy.
Yeah, well said. And it is exciting, and there are new things happening. But Jim, this is the way Chris has described it. This is not unusual in the history of exploration and then economic development and social development that follows, right? I mean, we had sailing to the New World. We had a 100-year gap where technologies began to evolve. Ships got better. You had insurance companies form. You had all this economic activity. But there was a national government sort of behind this with a few messages to put out to the world. Am I right, or is that just sort of Pollyannish thinking about connecting past and future?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I'd add two things to that. The 1958 Act that founded NASA, right, was about economic development. So this is not something that is outside of our core values. I think it started in aeronautics as the impact that aeronautics makes across the world from a safety perspective, but certainly the economic benefit that it brings here in the U.S. So that economic development is rooted in where we've been since 1958. And then the other thing I'd say too is there's that exploration bug that goes back to what you talked about. We always want to explore. We want to find something across that new horizon, and I think that's who we are as human beings. That's, to me, channeled through what we are chartered to do at NASA, and we do it in many ways through partnerships or sponsoring folks or going direct procurements, and that all comes out through what we see in science. Ultimately, it's really cool to see the vehicles that we fly and the people out there, but science is really what we're about, and that's what we're going to learn when we go back to the moon this time. My European Space Agency counterpart said, we've been to the moon. The moon's a museum of the history of the universe. And he's probably going to start charging me for saying this, by the way, but the moon's a museum of the history of the universe, and so far we've only been to the gift shop. And we have to go further now, and that's what we're intending to do with Artemis.
Right. Yeah, we're just buying the trinket right now. Yeah. Okay. Gosh, I want to get into the public-private model. We've got some questions though. Tamara, why don't you hit us with another question, because I know people have spent the time to be here today, so we want to answer the questions. You have another one for us? I saw Andrea.
Got a couple. Yeah, okay. Andrea Maleta asked this question. She says, 20 years ago, a small team of us under contract to NASA developed a business plan for a hypothetical commercial Earth-Moon transportation company using input from people like Colorado School of Mines. We showed it was economically feasible then. So how is it that being pursued now other than via SpaceX?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that contract. I definitely want to look that up. We've done SpaceX. Other companies as well have used our technologies and ideas to advance things. There's obviously Boeing has worked with what they're doing with Starliner and Sierra Space with Dream Chaser. So, but that particular study I'm not familiar with, but I'm going to go back and try and find that to understand it better and see what we could model going forward.
Tamara, you want to take one more? Then I'm going to ask my question and finish this segment of the roundtable.
Yeah. Well, these are also, okay, I've got two questions, but I'm going to ask them in the order that they came in. Is it feasible? This is from Gordon Rossler. Is it feasible to integrate the Artemis program with other Cislunar and Earth orbiting programs? In particular, can we conceive of a logistics system that serves all customers, NASA, NOAA, DOD, and commercial?
That's a good question, Gordon. Is that for Jim or Chris?
Not for me. That would be for Jim.
Okay.
Oh, darn, Chris, I thought you'd have a great answer. that.
He does. He's sandbagging you.
I would say that this is where it gets into, if we're building capabilities, the deep space logistics capability that I talked about, that builds systems with capabilities in terms of delta V or total mass to a certain orbit. If we're building those capabilities, other people are going to be able to use it. So let's say NOAA wants to fly a set of climate sensors out around the moon, and they could use that capability to do it. It's something we've enabled. Now, what I'd also say is our gateway, we work closely with our science community and other agencies like NOAA to have ports on the outside of Gateway where we can put systems that look back at Earth. So one of our first science payloads is actually a space weather payload sponsored by our Science Mission Directorate that's going to look back and look at space weather events. It's going to look at the Earth's magnetic field. So we're trying to make our systems much like we did for Space Station and how Space Station flies many different users today, have that capability and availability for them with what we're building in mainline, and then capabilities that we hope will enable for other users. So we don't design it so it's unique to us. We have to beat physics. And once we beat physics, other people can use those capabilities.
Can I jump in one very quickly there,
Please.
though?
You're the producer.
Pride of place. So Chris, just piggybacking off of what Jim just was talking about, let me just ask this question and put you on the spot. What do you need, right? What do you need as a commercial enterprise from NASA to be able to plug into all of this, right? You talked about that you're standing on their shoulders, but what, can you tell us a little bit specifically, what are your needs here?
Excellent question. And again, huge thanks to NASA with CLIPS and Artemis and everything NASA's doing, and the larger federal government too. Keep doing it, please. And regular flights, scheduled flights, more flights. Just go, go, go. Don't hold back, right? I mean, that would be our greatest request. Right. For myself, and I'm not speaking for other entrepreneurs, but certainly for us at Lonestar, it's the more flights you take, the more we can do with you, and the faster we can grow our economy and support data protection here on the planet and more. So please go, go, go. We're here to support you, here to work with you, and yes, more please.
Jet engines don't have reverse gears so far as I know, so keep going forward. I want to just focus a little bit on the topic today as well, the collaboration and the public-private partnership that's underway. Chris, I guess I'll stay with you on this. Is there an ideal model for public-private partnerships? I mean, you're going to, as Tamara suggested, you're going to need more and more of this. You're going to need the public sector to do things, right? The interstate highway was required for the trucking industry to expand and so forth. Is there an ideal collaboration? I mean, because again, Lonestar is going to depend on multiple collaborations to be successful.
No, thank you, Luna. And forgive me, everyone. We cooperate, we don't collaborate. That's still a crime in many countries. Sorry, Lou knows me about this, everyone. It's all right. Right. Yeah, so for us, I mean, it's an excellent question because, because we are able to, it's a symbiotic relationship, very much so. And the ability to go forward together is hugely important. And it's trust. And it is, and as Jim says, we're testing out these new boundaries, these new technologies. We're going back to, we're going into the museum this time and not just the gift shop. A great analogy, right? And yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, this is, sometimes I think it's not with us and the agencies and within industry and with our customer base. Sometimes I think it's with the larger public or with the political leadership. It's one of the things we found is when we talk to people, and we say we have this incredible solution that hits all your pain points and we're working with you, we don't mention the M word. We just talk about Earth's largest satellite. Arthur Clarke said this was probably the most written about event in human history before it even happened. And this isn't just going to the moon, but the return to the moon. Right. And it has become this sort of almost mythical place. And those photographs that we've all had in the last month from Orion, looking back at, Pink Floyd's, I know it's Dark Side, it's Far Side, I know that, but you can't say Pink Floyd without Dark Side. So to see the back end of the moon like that, and then to see the same thing from the South Korean mission, Team Freedom, Japanese mission, Team Freedom, commercial mission, to see America, Japan, South Korea go back right now and more coming, tremendous. Because then it shows people that because Apollo was so crucial, such a pivotal point in human history. And to go back, it's an incredible thing to do. But there's this huge zeitgeist around it.
Yeah.
And to help people, to keep people excited, to keep people focused on the next time we have people on the moon and we're building cities and settlements and everything we've ever dreamed about doing, giving the benefits back to humanity, as we've always hoped. But to get that idea in people's minds that this isn't never routine, trust me, family connection there, never routine in space, incredibly hard, literal rocket science, but that this is real.
Yep.
And it's tangible. We were on a boat in the Banana River watching that night. And oh my goodness gracious me, it was the biggest launch I've ever seen. Waves of sound rocking the boat back. And kid you not, dolphins, pods of dolphins came up around us. I was there with the former center director and retired astronaut. We're just sitting on the boat, enjoying each other's company and with a great family friend. And we were like watching this thing going, oh my gosh. Yeah. But even the dolphins popped up. And they didn't say thanks for the fish, and there was no mention of 42. So I was hopeful.
Well, they're not as grateful as they used to be.
No, they're not.
That's but Chris, I have to. You make me think of your earlier comment about the culture also moving forward and the political systems that are moving forward. I mean, if you do a flyby of the Korean Peninsula tonight, what you're going to see is in the south just lights everywhere in Seoul and Suwon and Busan, all those great innovative cities and that economy just bursting with light. If looking a little bit north, you're going to see this little dot of light over the capital city of Pyongyang, right? And that's not an accident. That's not an accident. And a lot of that is cooperation and openness. And before we move to our next segment, Jim, I want to pick up on this idea that I asked Chris about the new public-private partnership. Is it going to look, or does it need to look differently or different than it did maybe in the industrial and even post-industrial age? Are we going to need to think about the relationships between the NASAs and the Lone Stars differently?
I think we always have to continue to evolve how those relationships come about. I think NASA has our Space Act Agreement Authority, which we used for some of the early cargo arrangements we have. I think we see how our human lander procurement went the last time through, where we bought a service from something that hasn't been done, and there was a significant amount of swirl at the time around contributions, private contributions, how that played into things. That demonstrated an evolution, which we used in our last our lander procurement that the proposal is just closed on. I mentioned about how we're trying to evolve for LTV to be able to buy a service for human exploration and for science. I didn't mention that before, and then turn it over to other folks to use when our crew and scientists aren't using it. So I think there's an evolution that has to keep happening in how we implement it. And without that, I think we'll stagnate. But I think that's the learning we've gone through in, let's just say, the last 15 to 20 years.
And if I might add to that, Jim, and thank you, because that launch truly was tremendous. And that was the beginning of the next American century. And thank you.
Chris, by the way, Tamara informs me that I missed the reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, I was trying really hard. I got an Arthur.
So long and thanks for all the fish. Yeah, sorry about that.
And the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've been very hard working. Everyone, we have a science fiction award at the SSPI every year. So I've been trying to roll these things in. And I got Niven and Purnell in there too. I mean, come on, I'm trying very hard.
You're amazing. You're on message. Well, listen, we're at nearly the top of the hour. We've got our next segment coming up. Before I do that, though, I just wanted to, and you guys stick around because we're going to ask you the big question. I just wanted to give you a heads up as to what's coming in a few weeks here at SSPI for our SSPI members. So Matt, if you could put some of those slides up for us, please. Our next roundtable will, of course, we're the third Wednesday of every month, so we must be the New York Space Business Roundtable. And we'll get even more real in 2023. We'll have a special start to the year on January 18th for the New York Space Business Roundtable as we kick off our 2023 season. So we hope you'll join us, and we'll have a lot more surprises for you as we go into next year. Go to the next slide, Matt. Okay. In 2023, our fastest growing group, Women in Space Engagement, will continue to go forward. Odd months are closed women's working groups and meetings. Each month, there is a topical meeting which is open to everyone who is a woman in this industry. And these typically take place on the fourth Thursday of the month. So that's SSPI wise. And if you're not involved with that, we really encourage you to check that one out or ask Tamara for more information. And yeah, the Space Business Qualified Project. I'm very pleased to report that we have our first series of graduates from the certification program, and we will continue to have more courses rolled out. Enhance your career, check out spacebq.org. The fundamentals course certification package is now available at spacebq.org. Also, every Monday, we have our SSPI Better Satellite World podcast. We're on hiatus right now as we prepare our 2023 season, but each Monday between now and when we come back again as the Better Satellite World, we have a Making Leaders series. And we've got a good one coming up with the founders of Planet, who were inducted into the Industry Hall of Fame last year. So Robert Bell hosts those, and we hope you tune in every Monday and subscribe. Okay, next slide. Yes, we wish you a very happy holiday, and we look forward to seeing you in 2023. Okay, it's time to go to the big question. And as you'll recall, we asked the question, what will the Cislunar Highway look like on Christmas Eve 2032? Chris, I think you're still with us. I hope you're still with us. I wanted to ask you about, we talked earlier about the economy and how that's changed. What's it going to look like on Earth, economic activity, as we continue to go down the Cislunar Highway? Do you have a thought on that?
No, I do. Thank you. And I've been trying to give some proper thought to this as well, because it's a great question. Everything we've talked about today with Jim and us, and on the questions from the panelists, are hopefully going to be in a history book. Our children and grandchildren will totally take it as granted, as normal, completely normal, that there's people living and working on the moon. Completely normal that you look up at night and see lights on the moon, where we have settlements and we're providing everything for fusion power, space-based solar power, new medicines and science and new astrophysics from the far side. And it's going to be just completely normal. Because in our software-defined future, as Larry Niven said, right, the dinosaurs became extinct because they didn't have a space program. And Larry's our patron over at the Institute, right? And for us to be able to do this, for us to be able to use the moon, Earth's largest satellite, as an incredible platform to go on to Mars and into the rest of the solar system, and to actually use that to drive the economy of our planet for energy and resources, new ideas, and more importantly, hope. Like I said, I mean, truly thanks to Artemis, when that rocket lifted off, every single person in the world who talked about, oh, it was the end of America, I'm like, excuse me, watch that and watch what's coming, because this is the American century going forward. And this is the free peoples of the world's century going forward, thanks to space and this incredible investment that we've all made as nations, but more importantly, the incredible sacrifice made by everyone working in the industry to bring satellite to the world, communications to the world, knowledge to the world, this digital economy, and more with the moon and beyond. So there you go.
Jim, just, I'm going to ask a sort of a big question myself. Then we've got people who want to ask you guys some questions. We really understand, and we're beginning to see how what is being done through our industry is beginning to influence the economy on Earth. We're seeing, places that are retooling their local economies to contribute to some of the things that you guys are buying and using. And of course, as companies like Lonestar come online, they will also create wealth. There's another kind of capital that, again, I think Chris is alluding to, which is the capital of social peace. I mean, NASA has always been associated in our minds with peace, with a peaceful exploration. Do you see any chance that we could find ourselves in a more peaceful situation through some of the cooperation and the things that are going on?
Yeah, I guess I have at least two thoughts on that, maybe three. The first is what we do on space station today, to me, is the model. With everything going on in the world, we still operate peacefully in space with the Russians. And in the face of what's happening in the world today, I think that has always, to me, in the past, 9 months, kind of rung true as something that we should always use as the first act of diplomacy, that we're able to maintain that. And it's all about professionalism and operations. The second thing I'd point out is we have an effort that we've started throughout the U.S. and now we have, 23 signatories called the Artemis Accords, which really documents what we're talking about in exploration in terms of peaceful, transparent, and open exploration, sharing of data, sharing of samples, as a way to bring countries together in some ways who can't contribute a $2 billion element. It's about they ascribe to those values and they want to participate in exploration in that manner. So to me, those are the primary examples. We always have gone forward with our exploration in a peaceful way. That will continue. I'm sure of that. That's in the NASA Act of 1958. We'll maintain doing that. And then the final thing I say is, and it was on the last chart I had, we're going together this time. That's what's different about Apollo. We are going together, and it's not about a race. It's not about beating people. It's about learning, and it's about advancing humanity. And to me, that's the ultimate in peaceful exploration.
Yeah, again, the values get carried forward. I recall after World War II, probably the best export we had in Europe was jazz, right? That idea of the music of joy and celebration and innovation. It seems like we certainly haven't lost that, but you guys have given a lot more firepower to get out into space. Tamara, I know people have some questions. Should we let them ask?
Yes, we should. So everyone, I have just made it possible for you to unmute yourselves. And I want to call on two people. I'm going to start with Courtney because he had a question that we didn't get to ask earlier. And then after that, Aaron. And so Courtney, you're up.
Courtney, thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Thank Chris and Jim. You're just doing an outstanding job. Lou, thank you for this. I live in the Beltway, so Jim, forgive the inside the Beltway question. Budget. Sorry, I took my thing off. So we're in a CR or continuing resolution. Hope that we get an omnibus of probes. You're still coming in about $500 million short of the request. Still a pretty nice jump. Any of that affecting your planning horizon, Jim?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Courtney. Yeah, I mean, we're always trading that, right? Trying to figure out how to make that fit, and of course, working with our counterparts at OMB, who we put in a request, and they say, well, what are you going to do if you don't get it? And I'm like, my job is not to trade missions here. My job is to do an exploration program, and the nation can choose to do it, or we get gaps in our missions. We have one between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2 right now because we made a $600 million decision 7+ years ago to not build a second set of avionics because somebody said, hey, you're going to be $500 million short. So what did that do? That added, 2 years between our missions. So all I can do in those situations is point out, and I definitely learned from that one, point out where short-sighted things like that will cost us and raise awareness to that. And if that's the decision that's made, then that's what's made. I realize that those dollars come from somewhere. I don't take for granted that it's $500 million and that's really nothing. Those are going to come out of some other program across the government. But if our job is to develop a long-term exploration program, I'm going to put that plan together and raise where the budget process or the budget shortfalls cause issues for us.
And as an addendum to that, Lou, I would say, although Jim cannot ask us to lobby or advocate, I think the onus is on us in the community to particularly educate the new members to the importance of ensuring that Jim and his colleagues get their funding. I'll go back on mute. Thank you for your time.
Amen, Courtney. And when Chris was chairman of SSPI, we started the Better Satellite World campaign. So we're trying to make sure the narrative supports the types of things that Jim and his crew does. So that's a great insight. Tamara, we have someone else?
A couple of someone else's, and
Okay.
we have 5 minutes, 4 minutes. So let's ask these questions quickly. Aaron, you had a question, and Christopher Ulrich, Aaron Zuckerman had a question, and Christopher Ulrich had a question. I'm going to try to get you both in, but Aaron, go.
Go ahead, Aaron. If you can make it quick, that'd be great. Thanks for your patience.
Yes. Thank you all for the great talk. I wanted to ask, what are the plans and, how certain are rideshare opportunities for all these plans going to be both made available, just the launches themselves, but also, development funds to fill those, rideshare opportunities?
Aaron, you're talking about hosted payloads? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Such as the Artemis 1 CubeSats.
Okay, I guess that's a Jim question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a quick answer here, but it'd be great for Chris to talk about clips because he tells the story about clips so well. We have the calls for CubeSats for the certainly our last mission. Our current Artemis 2 is underway. We'll have it for 3. Eventually, we hope to maybe have some ride shares down on our lunar lander as well. So, but Chris, why don't you talk about clips for a second? Because I think that's.
Thank you.
Yep, please, Chris.
No, thank you, Jim. No, excellent. No, and Aaron, clips, commercial lunar payload services, amazing. Please, I highly recommend reaching out to all of the providers there and to the office itself. They've created a marketplace to go to the moon, and counterintuitively, it is more cost effective to put something on the moon now, thanks to clips, than it is to put something in low Earth orbit.
Wow.
Let that sink in. And that's what we're taking advantage of. And thanks to NASA and thanks to clips, because that is driving so much innovation and so much more economic value and a future marketplace. And thank you.
Yeah, well said. Tamara, before we go to that last question, Chris, we're not going to get a chance to go into it too deeply. We're going to talk about it next year. Legal matters. The ABA published a paper this year clearing up a lot of things under U.S. law. Is there some place where people can get that? Because we'll be talking, as I said, talking about that.
Oh, no, thank you. I think it's behind the paywall at the ABA, but we're going to talk to them about releasing that, the American Bar Association. But no, there was a lot of confusion. They very kindly reached out, and Dr. Del Smith, former senior partner at Dentons and Jones Day, 2 of the world's largest law firms, former general counsel at ComSat, satellite awardee at the Hall of Fame, put together this paper, and it's tremendous. It just goes through it step by step. Boom, boom, boom. There is law on the moon. There is ITU radio regulations on the moon. There is everything you find with a satellite anywhere in space. It is very clear, very well regulated, and we'll see if we can get that paper released.
Okay, and when you do, obviously we're going to be talking about it next year, so we'll include that in our discussion. Thank you for that. And Dell's very thorough. We know that. Tamara, last question.
Last question. Yeah, last question to Christopher Ulrich. If you're still around.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Hey guys. Yeah, I just had a quick question. I was wondering sort of what role technology transfers have in sort of this, the more recent like agile growth of the aerospace industry. Do you see that being an area that is going to really continue driving innovation and evolution? Because historically, I think there were just a lot of fears regarding certain technologies and national security, but it seems that things are starting to kind of pick up with that knowledge transfer and really push the industry forward now.
Is that directed for anyone, Chris?
No, not in particular.
Okay,
But if I jump in quick?
go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, absolutely. Like you're just talking about law on the moon and of course, US export control and international traffic and arms regulations apply, very much so. But when you're looking at this kind of tech transfer, so we're an integrator at Lonestar. We buy commercial products off the shelf and integrate them and provide a service. And it's fascinating to see sometimes where you have NASA taking a lead, you have the Department of Defense taking the lead, but you also have the satellite communications industry taking the lead and the providers for that equipment. And you see that kind of boomeranging back into the technological conversation where the SATCOM industry is really pushing boundaries in the use of edge processing and storage in space, which is allowing us at least to do some tremendous things. And I always say to people, never forget there's a helicopter flying on Mars, running off a Snapdragon chip with Phison storage on board. And the operating system is Ubuntu, Linux open source. And people go, what? And I'm like, yeah, right now, as we speak. So that's an example of things boomeranging in and out, and this larger digital economy that we have. Silicon Valley, where Deborah's at the heart of reporting all of this, is just that innovation that we're now able to take advantage of and bring into the space industry.
Yep.
It's tremendous.
Pretty cool, huh, Christopher?
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. James, last word to you if you want to comment on it, but we've only got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, I think tech transfer is at the heart of what we do at NASA, and we put the right controls on who can get access to it. If you look at the NASA spinoff report every year, it's incredible the things that we can push out and the things that we offer open access to industry to even pull out that we don't even advertise as something that's out there. So it's at the heart of what we do, and as I said, it goes back to our economic development charter from the 58 Space Act.
Yeah, and tech transfer office at NASA has been amazing. I mean, a lot of cities around the world are picking up the technology for their entrepreneurial class, and again, it's just anchoring the new economy that we're building in our country. So,
well, you said something really important. NASA is probably the best branded government agency in human history. I mean, when you can go off and you're in the middle of the go see some Swahili tribesmen, and they're wearing NASA T-shirts proudly.
Yeah,
right?
It's amazing.
It's like, wow, and it is tremendous. And hats off to NASA in everything they do.
Yeah, Joe Fargnoli, my colleague, wanted to ask about the blue meatball because we're both Italian. We've never seen a blue one, but maybe.
But however,
we're out of time. We may not want the answer to that. Listen, Deborah Werner, thank you so much for starting us off. Jim Free, Chris Stott, yeah, you guys are amazing. It's been a great session. You could have gone on forever. So thanks so much for being a part of this. Tamara, thank you again for producing the last roundtable of the year. Matt Owen, thank you as well for being behind the scenes and making it all work. Ori Yates, thank you for all of the work you did on graphics. And thank you, people who show up every month for these conversations. We really appreciate it, and we hope you continue to do it. I'll close with our friend, the prophet Isaiah. His domain is vast and forever peaceful. And we talk about peace. Let's go out and make it and keep it going for next year. Take care, everybody. Let's make it a better satellite world. Happy holidays.
Happy
holidays, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Enjoy your holiday.